So next up, and this was actually the second car that I purchased, was the Honda Beat. I'm on all the groups and I'm seeing the Beat and it just looks so cool. It looks different. So I said, I want one. And on this one, I want to import myself. I don't want to rely on an importer in New York. Let me just try it. And it wasn't that I was mad or angry or anything. I just thought it was a great experience to try importing myself to see what it's like. And boy, did I. And it wasn't a really bad experience. It's just you get nickel and dimed a lot. And there's a lot of waiting. There's a ton of paperwork to fill out. And you're questioning all kinds of stuff. And to ultimately get a car dropped off at your house, so you don't even know if the thing runs. So I worked with Japan Car Direct, who gives you access to the auctions via their site. And you have a person that you work with. And you tell them what you're looking for and how much you're willing to spend. They kind of help you understand what the fees above and beyond the fee for the car is. There's auction fees, there's transport fees within the island of Japan.
All right, this one's 77349 USS Sapporo. It's up in about 6 hours. This is up in Hokkaido, so it's kind of up farther north. Inland will be higher in this one because it's basically like it's in Alaska. Um, Anyways, 1991, so no problems going there. This one, R grades, has been nice and been repaired. I'll check the start price in a second here.
And they also offer services for additional fees like pictures. So somebody will go out on the auction floor and take more pictures or detailed pictures of items that you want, which is nice. And they also have an inspection where they'll go and do an inspection above and beyond what's on the auction paperwork. Again, that to me, that's a little bit of the sales guy scenario where they're salespeople. They're not going to tell you it's junk. They may, but I don't know if I trust somebody all the way on the other side of the globe. So we went back and forth. Most of the work is done through the middle of the night. You pick your cars through the day. They post. You see them a few days ahead of time. And what the person I would work with, they would translate the auction reports. Now, yes, you can do Google Translate or just use your phone to see what it says, but they were able to give me a little bit more detail on the cars, both from what's on the sheet, because not everything translates, but also just from the area. So in my case with my Honda Beat, it came from northern Japan, which is known to have a lot of rusty vehicles. Some people say don't even buy anything up there. But to my point on the Acti, I knew exactly what things to look for in the pictures, and I knew what was common to wear and where rot would be, and it was not evident in any of the pictures. So for me, I was willing to roll the dice. I told the guy I was working with how much I wanted to spend and go ahead. We did bid on some other cars and lost those bids, but ultimately I got this one. And I was on the fence. I didn't like the wheels, and it had 109,000 kilometers, which was fine, but clearly needed a new top, and it was silver. And silver is not my favorite color in the world, but it is what it is. It was shining though. It looked like it had a good paint job, and lo and behold, silver Beats have a two-stage paint job, which others don't. So from there, I won the auction and we proceeded to go ahead with the purchase. So the car, I purchased the car. I won it at auction for $2,700. I do everything in US. I'm not going to go bothering with the yen stuff. Then there was a shipping fee of $1,900, and that's shipped to me. And originally we were shipping to New York. I'm in Connecticut. They're shipping to New York. It changed later on. Then there are fees for Japan Car Direct. There are fees for the auction, the export paperwork, and the WISE fees, which I think were the when you wire all the money, there's fees with that. So all four of those together were another $1,800. So we're into it for a good amount over the 2,700 mark. When you import a vehicle, you also need a broker on this side. So while I mentioned with the carry and the Acti, I worked with an importer who took care of everything. In this case, I would need a broker who their sole purpose was to help facilitate the paperwork as the vehicle got on the ship and made its way into port and would get released from port. That was $600. Some of these items I know I paid a little too much for, but again, it was a first-time importer. I didn't know any better. Then there was additional storage in Japan. When you purchase a car at auction, or really any cars in Japan, typically they'll advertise that they'll store it for free, meaning while it waits for a ship. Because when you buy it, doesn't necessarily mean there's a ship sitting at port ready to collect your car. It may sit there for a month or two before it can get on a ship. In my case, there were no ships going to New York anytime soon. So they sent it to a storage yard that was near a port that had more ships going to New York, but I would have to pay for that. So all said and done, I had to pay an extra $245 to store the vehicle there. But now, while I had it there, I did have them go ahead and do the timing belt, which was $600, timing belt and water pump, which is something I would never want to do on a beat. That would have been north of 1,000 had I had it here in the state, had that work done here in the States. So once it was stored and we were good to go, we found there were no ships going to New York anytime soon, and we were getting near Christmas time. So I made the choice to go ahead and send it to Maryland and then pay, at least get it in the country, and then pay a transport company that I had to go find to bring it from Maryland up to Connecticut. Now, I could have driven down and gotten a U-Haul trailer and gone to port, but the reality is, for someone who's working a full-time job, is it's almost impossible. First, you need what's called a TWIC card. You need a special pass. You need to be certified to be able to go into a port of entry and to collect goods. You can pay people. So in Baltimore, I could have driven down there and paid somebody to escort me into the port to collect the car. Well, when the car comes into port, they have to clear it. The EPA, all the sign-offs, there's a lot of paperwork to go through, and that could take anywhere from a day to a week to 2 weeks. So even if I had made the drive down there, maybe even stayed overnight, I couldn't be guaranteed that the car would be ready to be picked up right away. So for that reason, I said, you know what, let me use a transporter that has a TWIC card. I can tell them as soon as I get the all clear that the car is ready to go, I can notify them and they'll drive it on a transport trailer. So that's what I did. And that only cost $400, which that was well spent, because $400 to save all that time and aggravation is just well worth it. There are also fees for Ho. I don't know how you pronounce the shipping company, HOEGH, but they charged $170 too. I think to broom sweep the ship. Who knows? So all said and done, to get from the purchase of the vehicle to getting it to my door, that was just south of $8,000. And now, like the trucks, you need to prepare the car. Now you've gotten it, you're all excited. You now need to prepare it to be registered. So you need to get DOT rated tires. So I couldn't just leave the wheels that were on it. I needed to get new tires. And if I was going to get tires, I might as well get new wheels. So those expenses start coming. Replacement top. I wanted an exhaust. I didn't like the stock exhaust, and I just thought the dual exhaust looked cool and all. So I had gone ahead. Typically, when you're waiting for 3 months for these vehicles to come in, you start buying stuff proactively and building a pile of things that you ultimately will bolt onto your vehicle. It's kind of the game. I'll also note that the total time from purchase to receiving the vehicle it was purchased on October 12th, and I actually received it on January 16th of this year, 2023. So that gives you an idea of how long it took, and that included the reroute to Baltimore instead of going to New York. In addition to the 8,000 I just mentioned, I then had to go and do the upgrades. Tires, lug nuts, timing belt, water pump, which I had done in Japan, as I mentioned, the replacement top, the exhaust, the wheels, the tires, the registration stuff, similar to the other vehicles, to register it here in Connecticut. The total came out to $11,265 for the Beat. Now, the Beats have gone up in value. A couple of years ago, you could get a Beat for $4,000 here, delivered here, and not do much to it. Now they're starting to go up in value. They're selling anywhere from $8,000 for a not so great one, all the way up to $15,000. Although the $15,000 was a Cars and Bids special, and it was actually not in really nice shape. It was just Doug DeMiro had done a review on it, so it sold for a lot more. But realistically, if I were to sell this car now, I'd probably get between $9,000 and $12,000. And I'm happy with that. It's the car I wanted. It was well worth it. That gives you the perspective of the nickel and diming throughout the whole process of importing yourself. Would I do it again? Probably not. Actually, definitely not. And the reason being is I have no skin in the game. I'm importing one or two vehicles here or there. So all the people I'm working with have no allegiance to me. Actually, I'd heard the people in the Port of Baltimore are horrible to work with, but in my experience, they were actually lovely. And I don't use that word too often. But the ladies in the office, they called me to walk through some paperwork and to talk about releasing the car. And they were super nice and scheduled stuff, and everything went very smooth, which is really against what I've been reading in forums in groups and whatnot. So in the end, this is an unbiased opinion. It's an unbiased review. I make no money from this. I'm not getting affiliate dollars or anything. Um, if I were to do it again, and I may do it again at some point, I would not import on my own. I would go through my broker. Um, it's it's just easier. It's an easier experience. You still have all the fun of picking out the vehicle you want in Japan and looking, knowing how to look at the pictures and just the right way to really gauge if it's a quality vehicle or if somebody's covering stuff up with paint. And I would go that route because it was much easier. I'm willing to wait, but I love the idea of knowing the actual to your door cost up front. I was for the 3 months that I was waiting on the beat, the entire time I was always worried what the next gotcha would be. What hidden fee was going to come out? All those fees that I mentioned earlier with the beat, they just kind of trickled in. And so it really kind of made you nervous all the way until the car was physically at my door. I do have to say, when they brought the car to my doors, the only one of the three vehicles that was delivered to my house, it was so much fun getting in it and just ripping it around the block. It ran, it was awesome, and it was well worth it. I have no disappointments, no regrets about getting the beat. I just probably wouldn't do the whole import process again all on my own.